Mao. Just for the information of the Senate, Professor Mao is like a brother to me. We served about 20 years ago together in the Gongola State Chamber of Commerce. Basically, industrialization in Nigeria for quite some time had been driven by the federal government in terms of all the policies, all the support, and all what it entails. But the reality is that apart from the few factories in Abuja and also the few factories located in some of the export processing zones, all factories are located in states. So there had always been a mismatch between federal government policies and local state policies in Nigeria. Thereby, you find that industrialists are basically left to fend for themselves in all respects. And that's why, given the right tax policy, given the right custom tariffs, if you go to a state where you site a factory and you have no access road, you have no guarantee of local security, you don't have the basic requirements of a factory, so you end up doing all that yourself. Invariably, you become very expensive and you become uncompetitive. So I think the next step we need to do now is really every state governor should be the chief industrial officer of his or her state. Thereby, with the fundamental policies established by the federal government, then the states have to key in. Unless we do that, it's going to be extremely difficult. Textiles, like my distinguished brother, Senator Mao, mentioned, is a very huge employer of labor. And the reality is the public sector will never be able to mop up all these unemployed people. But how do you review the textiles? Because whatever they produce, they have to sell. But with the kind of imports we get from other countries, it is impossible for them to produce at a profit. And the moment you are unable to cover your cost, no matter how well conceived, so I think the policy of government has to now really be more strict in ensuring that all the things that we have competitive advantage and ability to produce here, we should produce in Nigeria. Where an investor, for any reason, because of bilateral or multilateral agreements between us and their country, wants us to take their product, then let them come and site the factories here. That way, we will still maintain cordial relationships, but at least we make sure that our, population gets employed. Regarding the cashless policy that has resulted in the deduction of charges for any cash transactions or transactions beyond a certain figure, I think I totally share your views. Of course, it's good to have a cashless policy, but we should have ways of encouraging our people to maintain the cashless policy without, at the same time, where cash is so difficult nowadays, you start to get something out of them. I assure you, when given the opportunity, that will be my first assignment. I would like to sit down with the CBN governor and talk with them and see what the issues are. Regarding the issue of going back to our past glory, distinguished Senator Kabir Gaya, to be frank, we will never be able to go back to these old days unless we are able to ensure that whatever the farmer produces, he or she has a market at a price that is reasonable and is determinable in good time. For instance, a very typical example is a few months before this year's rainy season, the price of maize in my state, a bag, was 4,000. The same price of offals, which is a byproduct of that maize, was 4,200. So simply, it became more expensive to buy the offals than to buy the real product itself. And this is the cycle. Now the price is 4,000. Many people lost their investment in that season. Invariably for this year, a lot of them will run away from maize. 3 years ago, it was 6,000. So we have to have a mechanism that guarantees the farmer a stable price that is profitable. And we cannot do that until we go back to the period where we had the commodity boards. It's very paramount. And we cannot also export cocoa like we used to do in the past if every cocoa farmer will be allowed to travel out, identify the market, negotiate the price, arrange the shipment. It's not possible. So we have to go back to, but these are all boards that, in my view, should be done at the state level. If we say every state should do it, it's going to be a lot of multiplication. So states should look at themselves according to the products that they have competitive advantage. And then they'll go jointly and create some of these boards so that we'll be able to have standard pricing, standard weights, standard quality, and we have a seasoned workforce that have the capacity to negotiate good prices, arrange shipment, arrange funding. Unless we do that, if we leave ourselves the way we are, everybody fights for himself, we will never go back to these good old days.
My name is Senator Nelson Eviong. I represent Akwa Ibom South. We all, Mr. Nominee, everybody in this country knows that our economy is in bad shape. And Mr. President has started to plug the loopholes, and any area where we were having wastages, he has started to identify and block. Now, there is a powerful school of thought in this country today that as a secular country that we have guaranteed in the Constitution, that government, either in the states or in the federal, should not be sponsoring pilgrimage. Because if you look at the budget, the money, the amount spent on pilgrimages, whether Muslim or Christian pilgrimages, it is enormous. As somebody who has been managing the Hajj operations, who has taken part over the years, according to what you have told this Senate, do you think that the government, either state or federal, should continue to sponsor pilgrimage? And if you think otherwise, why? Thank you very much.
You put your hand down. Okay, you can take that last question.
Actually, in the Islamic faith, the journey for Hajj is only incumbent on a pilgrim when she or he has the means to do so. And as far as I'm aware, in the recent past, at the federal government level, pilgrims have not been sponsored for Hajj. Yes, the government pays for the salaries and wages of the staff that work for the Hajj Commission and for the security, consular, as well as medical services. The decision as to whether pilgrims should be sponsored or not, really, while I was in the Hajj Commission, we were concerned more with handling the Hajj, because basically most of the sponsorship was done at the state level. And I'm very happy to note that in this honored chamber, we have very many distinguished governors who, during their time, sponsored their pilgrim. But I know that each state looks at itself and then takes its own peculiar decision. For me, as an officer in the Hajj Commission, my role was simply to ferry people to Hajj, ensure that they were well accommodated, finish their Hajj and come back. And that's what one has been able to do over the last 8 years. Thank you, sir.
Well, there we have it. The third nominee, Mohammed Musa Bello, taking a bow, having answered a few questions and gone through the confirmation hearing before the Senate, making his way out of the